Donald Trump is banning travel again. This time, the administration will bar citizens of 12 countries from entering the United States, mostly from the Middle East and Africa. The administration will also place severe limits on people from an additional 7 countries. The restrictions will take effect on Monday. Joining us now, New York Times reporter Ahmed Ali-Aziz, who covers the Department of Homeland Security and immigration policy, along with Matt Zeller, former CIA officer and U.S. Army combat veteran who served in Afghanistan. He is the co-founder of No One Left Behind. So, Ahmed, we did a travel ban in the first administration. It wasn't a Muslim ban because that got struck down in court, but it was a travel ban with certain countries. It's been expanded. Who is on the list now?
Well, this time the Trump administration included several other countries, like you mentioned, in Africa, elsewhere, Haiti, Myanmar. But, you know, countries from that original travel ban are part of this as well, like Iran, Yemen, Sudan. This is just the latest effort for the Trump administration to try to restrict immigration to the United States.
The administration is saying this is in response to the attack in Boulder, Colorado, the Egyptian national, but Egypt is not on that list. Ahmed.
Yeah, it's true. The president began his video announcing this travel ban last night, talking about the attack in Colorado, but Egypt is not on the list. Earlier today, when reporters asked him about this, President Trump basically said that Egypt has a good handle on things. So it appears that for now, Egypt will avoid this travel ban. Of course, they're a major U.S. ally, so it was unlikely they'd appear on this list of countries.
And why wasn't Syria on the list?
Yeah, it's a good question. They were on the first travel ban in 2017, but of course, President Trump met with the new leader of Syria recently, and it appeared that, they hit it off. So maybe because of that meeting, it's unclear. But for now, Syria is not on the list.
All right. Matt, I want to ask you about Afghanistan. This is a difficult subject because there are so many Afghan nationals who helped us during the war on terror. And there are so many that were left behind, that were trying to get into this country. That the country is now run by the Taliban. It is not a place where a girl or a woman can thrive. There's no freedom. What sort of gut punch was it to see Afghanistan on this list?
Haiti, I'm only alive sitting here talking to you right now because my Afghan interpreter killed 2 members of the Taliban who were about to kill me in a firefight in 2008. The reason why he was standing next to me is he believes that our country keeps its word, that we made a fundamental promise to the Afghans who stood alongside us, that if they found themselves in duress, we would take care of them. This is my Purple Heart right here. The reason why I'm not in a grave in Arlington is because of that man. I fear that what this is going to do is it's going to get U.S. soldiers killed in larger numbers in future wars because people will no longer believe us and will no longer trust us and will no longer ally with us.
Why do you think this administration doesn't want to extend a hand to the folks that helped you, to the guy that saved your life?
His name is Stephen Miller, and he's the Deputy Chief of Staff of the White House. I'm not sure the president understands what he's signing. In the first Trump administration, the president actually welcomed Afghan interpreters to the White House for an Oval Office event alongside U.S. veterans and celebrated their service. The problem is he's being serviced by a man, Stephen Miller. Steve and I met a couple of years ago before he worked for the president when he was working in the Senate. He looked at my interpreter, who I brought to the meeting, in the eye, and he said, "Matt, what you have to understand is that you and your organization, No One Left Behind, what you guys are doing is you're bringing Islamic fundamentalist terrorists to my country, and it's my job to stop you." That's the man who's now in charge of our immigration policy. And let me be clear, I don't think it just ends with an immigration ban from Afghanistan. I think they're going to move to begin outright deporting the Afghan allies who we were able to successfully evacuate over the last 15 years. Those of them who have citizenship, I fear that they'll move to denaturalize them. If you look what they've talked about, in recent weeks, the Trump administration has ended the congressionally authorized program to help resettle Afghans who are left behind. It is declared somehow insanely that Afghanistan is a safe country for these people to go back. And yet, in the very same breath of calling Afghanistan safe for their return, have designated the Taliban as state sponsors of terrorists, and now are so concerned about the Taliban ruling Afghanistan that they're using as justification to not allow Afghans to immigrate here. None of this actually adds up. What it is it's Stephen Miller trying to accomplish what he's been trying to accomplish since he first got into government. The man hates non-white-skinned immigrants, full stop, and he's trying to do everything he can to get rid of them. And in so doing, he's going to get U.S. soldiers killed in future wars.
Do you think that he has a belief that all Muslims are extremists? I mean, how do you explain not the Oval Office, but the meeting that you just described to me?
I can't. He stared at the guy who saved my life and called him an Islamic fundamentalist terrorist to his face. Kate, let me be clear. I'm not the only person Janice saved. I'm one of 5 Americans who can point to that man and say, that man's my guardian angel. The other 4 soldiers who he kept alive by killing the Taliban, we didn't serve in the same units. We didn't even serve in the same deployments. On 5 separate times during his 9 years of frontline combat service, he kept people like me alive. And let's be very clear, if they're sent back, the Taliban is going to torture them and murder them. There's an Afghan soldier I've been trying to help get out of Afghanistan. This visa ban now applies to that man. 122 members of his unit were left behind when the Taliban took over. 36 are currently left alive. The rest of them have been hunted down, murdered, tortured in front of their families, and often watch their families killed alongside them. That's the hell we will be sending our allies back to.